Houston Public Media's Senior Director of Digital Operations, Mark Norris, who was at last night's game. I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman.
And I'm Ernie Manous. We'll also be joined by Harris County Precinct 1 Commissioner Rodney Ellis, who will discuss plans to unionize city workers.
Plus, Main Street Theater's founding artistic director, Rebecca Greene Udden, will tell us about their production of Tom Stoppard's epic play, Leopoldstadt.
And as always, we want to hear from you. So give us a call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. New movement today on Department of Homeland Security funding that gets TSA agents paid again and security checkpoints staffed up enough to spare travelers from having to wait hours in line. Early this morning, the U.S. Senate voted to fund DHS. Now the House is considering it. NPR's Sam Greenglass says the bill does not include any reforms to immigration enforcement tactics the Democrats wanted.
The DHS funding lapse has forced tens of thousands of employees to work without pay or quit and resulted in long waits at some airports amid peak spring break travel. If the House signs off on the deal today, money will flow again to FEMA, TSA, the Coast Guard, and cybersecurity. The deal came after a week of erratic negotiations and President Trump moving to unilaterally pay TSA agents via an executive order. Democrats say they stood firm on no new funding for ICE and Border Patrol and will keep pressing for reforms like requiring judicial warrants for immigration officers to enter homes. But Republicans are now signaling the time to negotiate has passed. Sam Greenglass, NPR News, Washington.
Maggie Sabatino says the showdown makes a person, quote, feel like a pawn on a chessboard between two players who don't know how to play the game. Sabatino's a union rep for TSA workers at Philadelphia International Airport. She is questioning why President Trump waited until last night to announce an emergency order to pay TSA agents again.
It makes you think hard. If he can order DHS to pay us now, why wait 42 days? Why wait the last time 43 days? Why have a 4-day stint in between? Why wasn't this done automatically?
Sabatino on NPR's Morning Edition. Israel is committing more troops to its ground invasion of southern Lebanon. It's trying to wipe out Hezbollah, which is backed by Iran. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has arrived in France to join a meeting of G7 foreign ministers to talk about the war in the Middle East as well as the war in Eastern Europe between Russia and Ukraine. We have more from NPR's Eleanor Beardsley.
President Trump's request of NATO G7 allies to help reopen the maritime route largely fell on deaf ears. Meanwhile, Trump has turned his back on Russia's aggressive war on Ukraine, which continues unabated. Alexandra de Hoop-Scheffer, president of the nonpartisan policy group, the German Marshall Fund of the United States, says the two wars actually intersect and show how much the transatlantic allies need each other.
Europeans still need a strong U.S. involvement in the European theater, and President Trump have made it clear that they need European allies, and they need European allies' support in reopening the Hormuz Strait.
Eleanor Beardsley bringing us that story from Paris. It's NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Matt Harab. Wait times at George Bush Intercontinental Airport security check-ins are getting better compared to earlier this morning. However, there currently is not a line that is less than an hour. Terminal E's security check-in is about an hour and 45 minutes right now. Terminal A South is about 2.5 hours currently. Relief may be on the way, though, for TSA agents who have gone without a paycheck for over 40 days now as a result of the partial government shutdown. Those agents haven't been showing up to work, creating the long lines. As you just heard on NPR, the Senate voted last night to fund most of the Department of Homeland Security, including the TSA. That bill now heads to the House. President Trump also announced that he would sign an executive order instructing the Department of Homeland Security to pay agents. News 88.7's Bianca Seward spent the week at Bush Airport talking with passengers impacted by this week's mess.
Travelers battled another day of brutal security lines at Bush Intercontinental. And despite the many warnings, passengers like Haley Washington were still frustrated by the situation.
And we knew what we were kind of getting ourselves into. But it's funny when you're prepared And then you get into it and you're like, oh, wow, we really are powerless.
Bailey White was cruising with her family when they read about the TSA delays. White quickly threw out her original travel plans.
Flight plans had to change. I had to change plans at home for boarding the pets. I mean, it's an inconvenience for sure.
Airport officials warn travelers that conditions may get worse as weekend travel ramps up. I'm Bianca Seward, News 88.7.
A South Houston police officer was injured in a shooting early this morning. It's unclear at this moment the officer's condition. However, they were in the intensive care unit earlier. This all began with an intended traffic stop. That driver refused to slow down, and a chase then began. After cornering the suspect shot a shotgun that hit the officer. Return fire killed the suspect, but again, that officer is in the hospital right now. We'll let you know their status when we know it right here on News 88.7. For more news, you can head over to our website. That, of course, is houstonpublicmedia.org. I'm Matt Harrop, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. Fisher's dedicated team of specialists provide resources on investing, retirement income, estate planning, and more. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
And hello, Houston.
And hello, Ernie.
Hello, Celeste. Frank is on assignment, but we all know because we talked about it yesterday. He's off somewhere enjoying himself for today, but he'll be back on Monday. But you get us, and we always enjoy ourselves.
And we want to thank you for joining us. Today is March 27th, 2026. I mean, can you believe we are just, again, flying through this year, I feel like.
I was looking at something the other day on my phone, and I thought, wow, that's dated wrong. We're still in February.
Oh, no,
and then I was like, no, it's the end of March, Ernie. I'm like, I'm so lost on
Felt like January would never end. And then it's like January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, that kind of thing.
Things will drag us down, but other things will move us forward. Today, we hope we're moving you forward. I'm going to try weather today. You want me to try and give the weather?
I want to hear it, Ernie.
I hear it's partly cloudy, but it's going to have highs of about 86 degrees. But tonight's going to go down to the mid-60s, maybe 65.
Beautiful.
Do you like my weather forecast? I'm pointing at my imaginary green screen of the city map, but we have the photo behind us.
We have it up, and it looks beautiful. I will say Houston does have a beautiful skyline, and if you're downtown, we hope you have a great day.
We're on one side of downtown. I live on the opposite side of downtown, and I drive down Dallas toward downtown all the time because I live in that area. Every time I see that skyline, there's like a little bend in Dallas, and all of a sudden there it is in front of you. Yeah. And it makes me so proud to be in this city, and it's so beautiful to see. And then I think, all those people making this city run. Yeah. It's really wonderful. Yes. How was that for a bit melancholy today?
I'm feeling inspired by you, Ernie, right now.
Oh, are you? Well, you know what you could be inspired by if you believe in unionization. County workers may be unionizing. Commissioner Rodney Ellis is going to be here to talk to us a little bit about that. We have Tom Stoppard, famous playwright. His final play is being produced over at Main Street Theater, and Rebecca Greene Udden will be here with us. Tell us a little bit about that. Hemp products, what you can buy and what's available is changing. We'll go into all of that. And then what I'm really excited about, DeQuina Moore, she's been on the show before, local talent. She is starring in the national tour of Some Like It Hot. And so she has come back to Houston, but not on her own. She's come back on tour. Wow. She's here. She'll tell us all about that.
Yeah. We have a great show coming up.
But some of you may be tired today. Why is that? Because you stayed up late to watch a basketball game. Celeste, take us into the headlines.
The University of Houston's journey on the road to the Final Four ended right here in Houston. The Cougars' hometown advantage from their fans inside the downtown Toyota Center was real. But Illinois still upset Houston in the NCAA Tournament's South Regional Semifinal, 65-55. Joining us now is the man who was at the game last night, HPM Senior Director of Digital Operations, Mark Norris. Mark, welcome to Hello Houston. I wish it was on happier terms.
Well, and I'm going to jump in right here before you even talk to say, I feel really bad because the whole point was we were having you on today to establish you would be covering us all the way through the Final Four and into the championship. And unfortunately, this may be your only appearance on this topic.
Yes, we're a one and done here. And, as surprised as I am, there's a lot of folks in college basketball who are as surprised as well, because the path that was in front of Houston was incredibly favorable. You were getting to play 2 games in your own city, which is very rare for an NCAA tournament. Most of the time you're traveling out of state, if not to a different coast. So the fact that they were playing 2.5 miles from campus and to lose in the Sweet 16 is a big disappointment, but also a big missed opportunity for the Cougars.
And we were talking about just how, what makes March Madness so interesting is you can see these upsets. And you were saying that this really was an upset.
Yeah, it's something that was not expected considering what Houston had accomplished and the things they had in their favor.
Talk a little bit about that. How did we get here that today we aren't all excited and happy to move forward? It seemed like, as you're saying, it was written on the wall we were going forward. This was our year. What happened?
So it's kind of the game where everything that can go wrong did go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Illinois had a huge size advantage. I will say, sitting, courtside in the press area, the first thing you notice is not just, they have a tall player, but like all of their players are extremely tall and extremely large. That caused Houston problems when it came to shooting. The Cougars, in the first half, they only had 22 points, which is incredibly low. It's one of their season lows. For the first half in shooting, they only shot 27% for the field. By the time the game was over, it was 34%. They really struggled to score. And, when you're deep into the second half and you're only in the 30s on the scoreboard, that's how upsets happen.
Yeah.
Right.
It's funny because we're so sad. We talk about, how this didn't happen, how it didn't happen, how we were let down. Actually, we had a really great season, and they made it to a really good point. And for any college basketball team, this is fabulous that they made it this far. So we should also sing the praises of the team.
Yeah, it's a little bittersweet because the way, Houston was in its 7th consecutive Sweet 16. That's the largest active streak in the nation for any school. That is an incredible accomplishment. But in the same way, all that success has kind of had people, fan base, people who follow college basketball expect a lot of things out of this program. So when you crash out in the Sweet 16, you don't even make it to the Elite Eight, you don't make it to the Final Four, you're right, Ernie, you'd be like, wow, that's most teams in America would love to get to a Sweet 16.
Right.
But this was a program that was, minutes away from winning a national title last year and was trying to get back and, maybe win one this year. So to not even make it to the Final Four was very unexpected.
So what would you say is the big difference between this team and last year's team when we look at, the trajectory from last year to this year?
The biggest difference is, a lot of Kelvin Sampson's teams, he gets players to stay around, which is really unusual in current college basketball. This year he had 2 freshmen who were very good, but they're so good, they're likely done after last night. If you look at NBA mock drafts, which I don't know if, our audience is maybe reading NBA mock drafts, which is totally okay. But, that's a fancy way of saying the 2 freshmen who were in the starting lineup are not expected to be back next year because they're expected to be playing in the NBA in the fall.
Wow.
So you have those 2 players who are going to be gone. Then you had 2 seniors who were in the starting lineup. They're expected to be gone. So you have this mix of talent that he's, willing to bring in for a year, plus talent that he's nurtured over several years that is going to be out the door. So that's how he continues to come back because he has a lot of continuity. But this is going to be one of his biggest challenges this offseason is really rebuilding. And he talked about that, how the next few days he's going to have one-on-one conversations with each of his players and figure out who's leaving, who's staying, and then the people who want to stay with NIL, you have to almost re-recruit your own roster, figure out, okay, how much money is it going to take? Who do we need to go and get after that?
Okay, so this kind of is the same thing of what you're saying, but I want to ask it in a slightly different way. You wake up this morning, you're the coach. What are you thinking for next year already?
Right now you're wondering, how am I replacing 4 of my 5 starters?
Yeah.
And it's, he didn't get into it last night. He was being a bit more reflective about, his own players and kind of the journey they have been on. But he said previously, he's expecting to have to go into the portal or the transfer portal really hard, which is, getting existing players from other teams. And he generated a lot of headlines, about a month or so ago when he said in a post-game press conference, we don't have enough money. We need more money if we want this team to be successful. This is, an athletic department that isn't as well funded as others. So after that, he may have had one of our bosses, and university leadership maybe pull him aside for a second and say, let's not go that far.
Right.
But I think that was someone who's been doing this for a long time, verbalizing how different it is. It's not about, okay, come look at our new practice facility, come get a great degree from the school. It's really turned into how much cash can you offer me, and then how can you develop me? So it's essentially a semi-pro, if not almost professional development schedule. And he has adjusted to it. He said he's not planning to leave, but he's also very cognizant that a lot of his contemporaries have left college sports because they don't want to deal with this current NIL era.
Right.
But he is still trying to go win a national title, and he's willing to evolve and change with it.
So looking at last night's game, really Illinois dominated defensively. I mean, that is what took this to them to the W. So my question is, do you think that is essentially what wins at March Madness?
It's really interesting because when you look at, kind of the first round, the madness part is, when a 15 seed, beats a 2 seed, or, the school you've never heard of, the St. Peters of the world, the Loyola Chicagos of the world.
My Ramblers.
When they go in these hot streaks. I know. When they go in these hot streaks, sometimes it's because, they have a really hot shooting night, like they're making everything from three and, they run off these upsets. But typically the further you get into the tournament, you do need to have very good defense. And one of the things coaches have talked about in this tournament is how they have figured out that you need to have size. You need to have people who can get stops, and how it's kind of turned into the opposite of the NBA now, whereas the NBA is they're launching threes at every minute. Whereas in the college game, they've decided to kind of tack the other way. So 100%, Illinois caused a lot of problems for Houston. And then on the inverse, Houston normally causes a lot of problems for teams and their offenses. But, what Emmanuel Sharp, one of the seniors on the Houston team said, Illinois is just really good. They found one little hole and they would just pick at it, and all of a sudden they'd be shooting a three uncontested.
Right.
And that was the difference.
Is it safe to say, or is this inappropriate to say, that we played poorly last night? Did we play well last night and it just wasn't
enough?
Yeah. Or was there missteps?
I think you could say they shot poorly. Even Kelvin Sampson would admit that. Full credit to them. At one point with 12 minutes to go in the second half, UH was down 18, and they cut it to 7 twice late in the game. So they never gave up. They played till the end. But in any, whether it's NBA or college basketball, if you're down by 18 with, only part of the game left, that's a really big hole to climb out of. So it was a poor shooting night. They didn't do enough. Kelvin Sampson said afterwards, if he expected them, typically Illinois averages, almost 85 a game, and Houston held them to 65. So he said, if you told me Illinois only scored 65 points, I would have felt really good. Well, the issue is Houston only scored 55.
Yeah, but I would say last night across the board, though, UH was not the only Texas team that took a loss. We saw UT lost against Purdue. And I would say almost last night was a story of the difference between good teams and Elite Eight teams.
And, I think that's the thing that was surprising, because Houston was considered to be an Elite Eight team, and they were expected to be able, Ernie was talking about, me being a semi-frequent guest over the next 2 weeks, kind of in the final part of this tournament, us and every other Houston media outlet was making plans on how are we getting to Indianapolis, how, what kind of flights are we going to be on, sketching it out so we can get there, because those are quick turnarounds. And none of, afterwards, all the media folks were waiting to go into the locker room, and everyone was like, that was pretty much the one way they could have played to not advance. Mm-hmm. And that is exactly what happened. Just a cold shooting night. But full credit, Illinois, it was an upset, but it was not. This was not the the St. Peters or the Loyolas of the world kind of doing something unexpected. Yeah. Very talented team that is gotten deep into the tournament, and they have put together their best roster. And unfortunately, for Houston, everything went right last night.
Yeah.
Okay, so Illinois, in some weird way now, I want to see them win everything, because then I'll feel vindicated that we lost them because they were just so good.
No, we want to see them lose. They beat us.
But we don't, because then it says, wow, we couldn't beat them. They lost.
Nah, it's like,
which one of us is going to be happier?
It's interesting. So on Saturday, you have two Big Ten teams playing in Houston, which is admittedly kind of weird. You have Iowa, who's the 9 seed, which is also why it's a missed opportunity for Houston. Mm-hmm. If you had told Coach Sampson, you're going to be playing a 9 seed to go to the Final Four, he would have run across whatever to get to that opportunity, because that's very unusual. Mm-hmm. So you have a team that is, now knocked off, Iowa beat the defending national champion in the second round. So are they, every year there's, a team of destiny, that isn't necessarily expected to do well. So you could have that. But Illinois is so good and so physical. I think they're going to get to the Final Four. So I think,
are they going to take it all?
They could.
I want you to look in that crystal ball for us.
Well, I want to know, what are we
the
looking at?
The team I picked is another Big
forward?
Ten team.
Yeah, Mark, what are people looking at, moving forward? Here we are. We're getting down to the Final Four. What are we looking for? And who are we to watch?
So out of this region, you're going to have an unexpected team. People were either generally picking Houston or Florida, and both those teams are out. The other regions, the favorites are still going. Duke is expected to get out of their region. They play tonight, so they still have a path forward. Michigan also plays tonight. They've been a Final Four pick. And then Arizona played last night in their region. That was the region Texas was in. Arizona handily beat Arkansas. Mm-hmm. So the other 3 regions still have their prohibitive favorites playing, whereas the South region, where Houston is that's the wild card. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Houston Public Media Senior Director of Digital Operations, Mark Norris, for joining us today and giving us an update, a sad update, but an honest one.
You can still visit us over the next few weeks.
No, I don't know. You were supposed to come with good news.
We'll pick another topic for me.
We're going to kill the messenger here.
For sure. Coming up on Hello Houston, Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis is going to join us to discuss his plan to unionize city workers. Thanks for joining us.
Meet Tio Choco. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. This is his story. Visit ridemetro.org/Choco to find out where is Choco.
Whether you're an NPR listener, a PBS watcher, or both, your ongoing donations of at least $5 per month qualify for PBS Passport. Make your gift now to start watching at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
The U.S. deploys thousands of troops to the Mideast as the war in Iran continues. On the next Friday News Roundup, what we know about the plan for American service members. Plus, Meta and YouTube are found liable in a major social media addiction ruling, and travel delays get even worse as the DHS shutdown drags on. The News Roundup, next time on 1A.
You can listen to 1A. It's coming up today at 2 p.m.
On this week's On the Media, the New York Times sued the Pentagon to get its reporters back in the building and won. The Pentagon said, not so fast.
A spokesman said yesterday an area of the building known as Correspondence Corridor, which reporters have used for decades to cover the DoD, will close immediately.
Don't miss this week's On the Media from WNYC.
It's on tomorrow at 5 p.m.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Metro, introducing the Ride Metro Fare Card. The Ride Metro Fare system replaces the Metro Q Fare Card for bus and rail fares. Details at ridemetro.org/fare system. Support for Houston Public Media comes from the Grand 1894 Opera House, presenting the Duke Ellington Orchestra in concert, March 28th at 8 p.m., featuring music from the orchestra's jazz repertoire. Tickets at thegrand.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manous and Celeste Diaz-Sherman.
Last week, Harris County Commissioners approved a new policy that gives county employees a path to organize and advocate for better pay and working conditions. It's the first move of its kind by a county in Texas. So what does this policy actually do? And what could it mean for thousands of county workers? To tell us more, we welcome Rodney Ellis, Harris County Commissioner for Precinct 1. Commissioner Ellis, welcome back to Hello Houston.
Thank you, Celeste. It's always good to be with you. I'm so proud of what you all are doing. And don't give up. This station's so important.
Yes.
Yes, thank you about that.
And if you would like to join the conversation, if you have a comment or a question, you can give us a call, 713-440-8870.
I guess the place to start is an understanding. And even in Celeste's intro, she said that it's giving the employees a path to do this. Explain what we're actually talking about.
So it is illegal for public sector workers to unionize in Texas since 1947. We became a right-to-work state. That is still the law. It was reauthorized to be a right-to-work state when I was in the Senate. Ann Richards was governor. Somewhere in the early 90s, we did it. What this does is create a consultation policy, which is permitted under the law. Little footnote in history, certain employee groups can unionize. On the local level, law enforcement and the firefighters are able to essentially unionize, and, they have their meet and confer policy. So that is an exception the legislature wrote into law. When we passed the policy to Commissioners Court, I thought I'd just make that point when people act like there's something sinister about unions. Unions have played a very significant role in the modern development of Texas.
Okay.
They were formed during an era when, after the Great Depression, the barons of the day controlled everything, and it wreaked havoc on our economy. So unions and civil rights and rights for women, unions have played a very significant role. But I want to stress, this does not give anybody a right to go organize a union. You can have a union. You cannot do collective bargaining if you are a county employee. You cannot strike, but it lets each elected official decide whether or not they're willing to let the unions come in and have a consultation policy for their employees.
Just explain. Consultation. What do you mean by
consultation means if you get 20%, if 20% of the people are signed up with a certain union, the county has the ability under this policy to recognize that union to have consultation power for them. Come in and make their case. I don't know about you. You two are pretty independent, but it's pretty hard to go to whoever your supervisor is and say, supervisor, that's really a dumb idea. And by the way, you're paying certain people more than you pay me. Why do you do that? It's difficult if you want to keep your job.
Yes.
It's difficult to do that. That is the role that a union will play. So if a union has 20% of the employees, an elected official who runs that office, like my office, I can decide if a union has 20% of the people who signed up as members, they can have a consultation policy where those union leaders can come in and make that case about sick leave, about maternity leave, a host of issues, work from home policy, working conditions, how long the lunch break should be. And it just really gives workers who are the backbone of our economy a seat at the table on the county level.
So, this is being called a first-of-its-kind move in Texas.
It's first of its kind for a county.
Okay, and that's
there are a number of school districts who
what
do it.
What makes this different from what other counties are doing?
Well, there are 254 counties in Texas.
Right.
No county has ever agreed to have a consultation policy. Counties have not.
Okay.
Cities around Texas do it.
Mm-hmm.
There are several hospital districts who do it. The city of Austin does it. And I'll give you a little list. It's probably in the talking points I sent you, but there are probably about 4 or 5 cities in Texas who've done it. We just never opted to do it on the county level.
level.
Look, it's part of a series of what I would call affordability measures that I've worked on out of office. So here are the rest of them. We've increased the living wage for county employees to $20 an hour. And workers on county contracts will have to make a minimum of $21.65 an hour. We passed a contractor safety policy so we don't have people dying on their jobs, losing their hands, losing their feet. And we want county contractors to be accountable for ensuring safe work sites. We've had more problems with people dying, getting injured on work sites for county contractors in Texas than any other place in the country. We created and later expanded union apprenticeship programs. So we expand good paying jobs for people to learn how to do certain skills. And we established a Harris County Essential Workers Board to create better policies that are essential for county workers. So about 5 points in play. This is the last one. We've been working on it for some time. The first time it came to my attention, the folks out at the Harris Center, the mental health side, came to me and said there were a number of grievances, had a meeting with me, and they were complaining about a host of issues that they thought were discriminatory practice. Whether they were or not, I don't know. They want me to write a letter. I said, look, I can write a letter, but what does that mean? Why don't, if you think you have some legitimate gripes, why don't you write me a letter, ask me to put a policy on the county commission's agenda to say we support what you can do within the confines of the law in Texas. So you can organize workers. And so we created essentially a consultation policy for those Harris Center workers. And now we've expanded that to all county employees. If there's an independent elected official, that elected official gets the option to decide whether or not consultation works for that entity.
And I just want to clarify, how much negotiating power do workers have right now?
Not much.
Okay.
If you're certain groups of employees, law enforcement, because we all have a sensitive spot for people who put their lives on the line. Obviously, they carry quite a bit of weight.
Sure.
You've had stories about how even if we make a decision late into the process to raise the pay for those folks who are in law enforcement, it happens. The other workers don't do it. I mean, I pushed through our pay equity policy, long overdue. It's no secret. When the study was done, took years to do it. Women of color in particular would pay considerably less than people next to them doing the same job. Right. So we passed pay equity. Well, why were we lucky to have my team willing to put that on the table? And we did get, 4 votes at Commissioner's Court to enact it. That's something that should have come from some employees themselves. We passed a maternal leave policy. So it's good that I was thinking of those things. My team would come to me. I put together a policy team. But this gives employees a seat at the table. To answer your question, no. They didn't have a seat. They didn't have even a stool at the table.
Okay, but the argument is that you'll often hear, and we think back to when you talk about the industry barons and such, and so that these unions popped up and came into being. It's that employees were being mistreated. Employees had a bad shake of it. From what I'm hearing, all of the policies are being laid out that say, hey, listen, we're giving pay equity. We're doing this. We're doing that. There's going to be a group out there that I think are going to hear, well, our county, the budget is so off right now, and there's deficits and all that. Right now, what you're doing is opening the door for now things like, and it has a bad taste in some people's mouths, what happens with fire and police when it comes to all of their pay and their whatever you call it, their retirement funds and things like that. Is this going to hurt financially to the county's bottom line if this moves forward in that way? Aren't we already taking care of our county employees?
No, we're not taking care of our employees. Okay. And no, it does not bring some crisis to the table. That's why I'm a county commissioner. That's why 5 of us put our names on the ballot to be in that position. You make tough decisions. Does it mean that I'm going to agree with everything that the union leaders recommend in the consultation policy? No. And at the end of the day, get over it. I mean, that's why I'm elected, to make tough decisions. But, why did it take stuff coming out of my office? Why did it take so many years for me to get a pay equity study completed? That came on the table long before we had a discussion about what you pay employees at the top. And I'd politely, I hope, kind of mention it to my colleagues. We managed to give the folks, the pretty people in the big offices, the department heads a pay raise. They just put it on the table and just popped it right across. But for folks at the bottom, why did it take? I've been here for 9 years. I brought the issue of pay equity for folks on the bottom long before it got to folks on the top. And I did call the union leaders, although they didn't have the ability to sign up many workers, really no leverage. I asked them to come and testify to help me get the votes. But no, we weren't doing it. And, you know, the things that we've done, we did them because the pressure was coming, and it was coming from this commissioner's office. And I'm glad I had the support of Commissioner Garcia, Commissioner Briones, Judge Hidalgo, some of my other colleagues from time to time, Commissioner Ramsey from time to time. But why did those emanate out of my office? If I hadn't been there, and not to pat myself on the back, but it shouldn't be just based on what one commissioner decides they think is right. Look, I'm sensitive to unions. My grandfather, I can remember, I didn't know him very well when I was a kid. He was part of a lawsuit to force the black and white longshoreman unions to merge. I can remember being in junior high school. We called it that then in the 60s. This lawsuit was going on. They had marshals there to protect him. I was wondering, what did he do? I didn't know him that well. He divorced my grandmother when my mother was a kid. But it was because it was an important lawsuit. And it took that. I've had issues with union leaders from time to time, but they played an important role in the development of many of the rights that we take for granted in this country today. So I'm not one who's afraid of unions. And I just like kind of gigging my friends to say, you don't complain when it's certain union leaders. But look, I won't always agree with them. But yeah, it means from time to time, if you want to have a maternal leave policy, yeah, it costs some money. And you know what? Women shouldn't have been left in the background because they were having a child. And I'm talking about putting workers at the table who make this county work. They build the roads. They build the buildings. They lose their hands, their feet, their arms. And yeah, we ought to have somebody advocating for them. It's the right thing to do. And let's see how it works. But I'm convinced that we're well within the law. The county attorney has advised us on that. And there are many other places in Texas who do it, particularly those hospital districts. City of Austin as an example, I think San Antonio. But check my stuff I sent you to make sure I get those cities that have done it. But it's the first time a county has done it, and it's about time.
We are speaking with Harris County Commissioner for Precinct 1, Rodney Ellis. If you would like to join the conversation, you can call or text 713-440-8870. So what kind of immediate impact do you think this will have on workers?
I think that, first of all, for our worker safety policy, they're going to have a seat at the table and make sure that we are really monitoring that. We just passed it, that is really working.
Yeah.
When we did our pay equity, I didn't pick the consultant that did it. I simply put an item on the agenda and said, let's go do a pay equity study. Let's see if there are discrepancies there. Took forever to do it. Maybe the study cost $1 million. I could guess before we spent $1 million, but you had to go and quantify it. And there were complaints about how it was working. Okay, now employees will have a seat at the table to say, we think you got this wrong. You ought to try to go back and get that right. Or look, at some point, if there's an issue with losing county employees because we don't pay them enough, they'll make that case for us. And if we don't have the money to pay them enough, they're going to make that case under the laws that we've been given by the state of Texas. There's a cap on how much additional revenue we can come in. It's interesting. My old colleagues in the legislature don't have a cap on how much they can get from that regressive sales tax that you fund state government with. But they have to make that case. If we ever have to go to the voters, they have a seat at the table. And I've told the union folks, this is not about gimme, gimme, gimme. I don't want every time I look at you, you got a bright idea that costs money. You have to be part of the equation. What do we cut?
Right.
And if we have to go to the voters at some point and ask for more money, you got to be a part of that.
As we talk about all this, just to put it in perspective for folks, how many people are we talking about? How many people does the county employ?
We employ about 18 to 20,000 people. As I mentioned, under the law, if you are an independently elected official, if you're the constable, if you're the clerk, if you're the sheriff, if you are a county commissioner, if you are the flood control district, that person's not elected. But if it's an independent elected official, you decide, county attorney, you decide whether or not you let your employees have a consultation policy. And if you want to go make the case, everybody can come in right now. They can come in and say, boss, I don't think this is right. If you really believe that, say it. But say it in the light of day. I think most of the elected officials will probably say, look, it's fine. If they get 20% of the employees to sign up with some group, we'll recognize that group to come in and speak for them.
Is there any way that this policy could run into some type of legal challenge at the state level?
anything that has Harris County on it for whatever reason. The engine that drives the state of Texas. As Harris County goes, the rest of the state goes. I have no idea what somebody may see as something that helps them politically, but that's what the courts are for. I'm a lawyer.
Yeah.
But if you shut it down here, you're going to have to shut it down at other places as well. Or if the legislature wants to go back and change the law, you don't want to make this point. Mm-hmm. The right to law Texas passed in 1947. This will be an interesting deal for you. Good history lesson. Go back and see what else the Texas legislature did in 1947. I'll bet you, Celeste, that women couldn't walk down certain streets. I know my father couldn't. So, I mean, let's not act like this was a holier-than-thou legislative session. Lynchings. I mean, all sorts of awful things that fortunately are in our past were also passed by the legislature in 1947. But it's a right-to-work state. I respect that. That was reenacted in the 90s. I was in the Senate. Ann Richards was governor. I can't remember whether or not I voted for it. There's some things ChatGPT won't tell you. But I assume if Ann Richards was governor and she signed it, I probably voted for it. There are obviously positive sides to it, but there are also positive aspects to Texas history to American history that unions have played a key role in developing. So I am going to join AFSCME. I'm going to be proud of it. When I was on the city council, I did it. You all are too young, but I remember when there was a garbage strike under Mayor Whitmire, Kathy Whitmire at the time, because the law enforcement people knew how to have a sick out. Yeah. They get a permit. The folks who pick up our trash didn't know how to do a sick out. And many of them took those jobs because they went to Vietnam. They didn't have another job that they could get. And they played a valuable role. And I'm proud to have stood up to help solve that issue for them and get about most of them their jobs back. But, hey, this is a good thing for Harris County. It's a new day in Harris County, and I'm proud to be a part of it.
Before we run out of time, though, as long as we have you here, how are things over in Commissioner's Court? How are things going there?
Just wonderful.
Yeah.
You know, I wake up every Thursday and wonder, is this the day? Look, you know, I've been in politics for a long time, and I learned a long time ago, I got to work with the people that the good Lord and the voters send me.
Yeah.
And I love and respect all my colleagues, even the ones that I've served with in the past. I won't call their names. I don't want to embarrass them. Most of them I have a pretty good relationship with. And if someone passes in their family, I call them. If there's something going on that they see they don't like, they'll call me. But there's a certain camaraderie because I respect anybody who goes through what it takes, including having to take a few sharp elbows from you all in the media. Yeah. But, hey, life is good every day.
Is it become, in some ways, I think, from casual observers, a bit of a soap opera over there? And does that interfere with the work that you guys should be doing?
It does not interfere with the work.
Okay.
Has it become a soap opera? It always was. It just may be a little more entertaining for you all now. You know, local government, I have found, by and large, is a lot more brass-knuckled. Mm-hmm. You know, I can remember sometimes when I was on city council in the 80s, I'd be so mad at somebody, you know, and then I'd get to Austin and think about it. I'm upset because somebody wouldn't vote for my bill. People have life or death issues that the legislature impacts. And I would think to myself, why am I upset because somebody didn't vote for my bill? You get over it, but you're a little more removed. Mm-hmm. Politics in itself now is much more toxic than it was when I started. But, you know, you find a way to work with people. And at Commissioner's Court, you know, there are days when it's a little rougher than others, but it's all right. You notice I keep my cool.
Yeah.
And sometimes when there's been a little outburst, people say, well, was Rodney absent? You know, I just kind of remember my mother would tell me when I was a kid, there were three of us, and I was the nice one. I maybe would act, but Butch and Melody would, if something get started, even if I stirred it up, and my mother would come back and say, you know, don't get in an argument with somebody acting up because somebody on the outside won't know which one was the one that started it.
Before I let you go, I love to do this with politicians. Please remind people how important it is to vote.
It's so important. You know, the numbers of people that vote in Harris County, it's an embarrassment in Texas, but in Harris County. No matter what laws people put in place to make it so difficult, if you don't vote, you don't have a seat at the table. And if you don't like any of the choices that you have, so you don't vote at all, you still voted. You voted to not participate. And that means you have nothing to say about who ends up in that position. Look, in my community in particular, people died for me to have the right to vote. Mm-hmm. I voted every election, in every race, up and down the ballot. I do the research before I walk in. I know it's a long ballot, but it matters. And there's just so many people around the world who wish that they had this right that we have in our democracy. So vote as though your life depends on it. Every time in every race.
I do want to ask you one more question just about the pulse and the health of Harris County. There has been a lot of questions just about, like you said, we've seen some very public arguments going on in County Commissioner, but overall, how is the county doing?
We're in very good financial position at the county. Obviously, there are challenges. We're going to have a shortfall this next go-around. We'll have to deal with it. We may have to make some cuts that are painful, but overall, the economy is still growing. A lot of what the media does, by the way, who would listen to you if you were just talking about how great things are? So the nature of the business, it's been a long time. I did minor in communications at the Texas Southern University. But by and large, people are moving here for a reason. So no matter what complaints we have and people who feel like it's an awful place to live because there's something they're upset about, people are coming in every day. I don't think the good Lord planned for us to have 5 million people right here at sea level with the heat and humidity. I'm always amazed when I go to other places and people tell me they come into Houston for restaurants. They come in for the rodeo. They come in for a party. And despite the weather, you learn to adapt. It's a great place to live, and I love it.
Rodney Ellis is the Harris County Commissioner for Precinct 1. Commissioner Ellis, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you. I always say what you all do is so important. So don't give up.
Thank you.
No matter what they throw at you.
Coming up, a local theater hits a major milestone. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Meet Gamola, songwriter, world-class violinist, and award-winning multi-genre artist. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. Visit ridemetro.org/Gamola to learn more about his ride.
I'm Kai Rizdal, balancing the books down on the farm. That's next time on Marketplace.
You can listen to Marketplace. That's coming up tonight at 6:30.
I'm Anita Rao. More than half of U.S. states have banned trans athletes from school sports. One of the first openly trans athletes to compete in the U.S. says that these youth bans have far-reaching implications.
By taking away the sporting opportunities for trans youth, we're taking away opportunities for all kids. Sports provides us so much more than winning or losing.
A conversation about trans athletes in sports, next time on Embodied.
Sunday night at 8.
Support comes from Pearland, Texas, a community supporting innovation in business, science, healthcare, energy, and inspiring their citizens. More on innovation happening in Pearland at pearlandedc.com. Pearland, innovation lives here. Support for Houston Public Media comes from Hildebrand, MBA at UT Austin's Macomb School of Business, offering the weekend MBA at Houston. Campus visit February 28th. Details at texasmbaevents.com. Make it here.
Hey, it's Francis Lamb, host of The Splendid Table. This week we have a chef who wants to cook at home and a home cook more obsessed than any chef, both with inspiring new cookbooks. It's Ham El Whaley and Ella Quittner with their books Hello Home Cooking and Obsessed with the Best. It's coming up on The Splendid Table.
You can hear The Splendid Table. It's on Sunday at noon.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manous and Celeste Diaz-Sherman.
Now that's right. Hello, we are back again. Starting tomorrow, Main Street Theater will bring celebrated playwright Tom Stoppard's acclaimed play, Leopoldstadt, if I'm saying it correctly, to life on stage, and it will run through May 3rd. This epic play follows a Jewish family in Austria as they navigate the horrific events that took place during the first half of the 20th century, exploring identity, prejudice, and family. The play was Stoppard's final work before his passing just last year, and possibly one of, if not the most personal works, with his own family history inspiring elements of the story. To tell us more about this production, we welcome our good friend, Rebecca Greene Udden, founding artistic director at Main Street Theater. Becca, welcome to the program.
It's great to be here, Ernie.
I want to start off with talking a little bit about who is Tom Stoppard. A lot of folks are familiar with the name without knowing anything else.
Oh,
and a
wow.
lot of folks are familiar with his works without knowing they're his.
Right.
Tell us a little about him.
Well, let's see. He burst onto the theater scene with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead in the 60s, I think. And ever since then, he's just been putting out absolutely fabulous, fascinating plays that the man is so smart, he was so smart, and could get so deep into subjects and yet make them palatable and clear to an audience. And every play was a new adventure. He just wrote millions of plays, not millions, but he wrote many plays, and of course Shakespeare in Love and a number of other screenplays. So he wasn't just a playwright, but I think that's his major contribution is his work.
I assume working on this piece, he did not realize this would be his final piece.
I think he did. I think he was 88 when he passed, and he said this would be his final play. Now, then after it was had opened and had been running for a while and was very successful,
much acclaim,
then he might have changed his mind. But I think he had reached a point where he said, "Yeah, this is I'm done."
So, do you think having that insight that maybe this was the final, that adds to something special being in the work?
Oh yeah, I think so.
Talk about that part of it.
Well, of course, it's not autobiographical strictly, and yet there is a character in the play in the final scene that's clearly Stoppard. He didn't find out until he was in his 50s that his family was Jewish, that he was a survivor, or not a survivor, but he was a Jew from Czechoslovakia, whose mother, his father had died, and his mother got out before it was too late, and went to Shanghai and met an Englishman and married an Englishman, took them to India, and then back to England. And so he grew up as an English boy, and had just either suppressed or hadn't. His mother, I think, if what he says in the play is true, his mother didn't stress their Jewish origins when they got to England, and so he just never realized that he was born a Jew.
Yeah.
Right.
When you first sat down to read the play, I'm assuming you were familiar with it before you sat to read it to decide this is definitely going to be in your season.
I saw it and I said, I've got to do this.
Oh, so you knew it seeing it.
I knew. I don't know if I'd read it before I saw it, or I just saw it and said, okay, we're doing this.
Yeah. What was it that made that say, this is for us?
Because, first of all, it's a big play, and we like to do big plays in our small space. And it's Stoppard, and we are the home of Tom Stoppard in Houston. And and it's so personal. And, we have been producing Stoppard since our very first seasons.
Yeah.
Right.
And to be able, in our 50th season, to be able to produce this.
Okay, hold on a second. 50th?
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's, Houston has a robust theater scene.
It does. It really does. And it's a great time to be producing in Houston.
You all have been here for 50 years. Talk to me about the evolution of Main Street Theater.
So we were founded in the mid-'70s, and I like to say that at that time there was a critical mass of people, young people mainly, but also more mature artists who really wanted to work professionally and did not want to have to move to New York or Chicago or L.A., which were really kind of your options at that time, and really wanted to create a professional theater scene in Houston. I mean, there were professional theaters in Houston, but there was the Alley, and then Tuts had begun about the same time, and there were some dinner theaters. That was the sort of professional spectrum. So at the same time that Main Street was founded, a year later, the Ensemble. At the same time, Stages, which was then called something else, but it was the same group of people. Right. Chocolate Bayou and Equinox. Now, Chocolate Bayou and Equinox aren't still here, but we were all there were enough people that 5 theaters were founded at the same, roughly the same, within the two or 3 years of each other. So it was a great, it was just one of those lucky moments where a spark ignited and theater really took off.
I find it very interesting when I was reading about Main Street Theater that you all say you'll foster an atmosphere of compassion and inclusivity. Talk to me about why that's important in the theater world.
You're sitting in a room with people you don't know, watching a story about people you're just now getting to know. Mm-hmm. And the communal experience of sharing a story is so powerful, and you want everybody to be in the room. You don't want to just be playing to a certain economic or ethnic echelon. You really want everybody to be in the room. Mm-hmm. It's no good if you're only playing to a small segment of the audience, and if the people on stage are only a small segment of the artists. So we've really made an effort to be more, to be more like, we want to be a theater that reflects Houston, right, and its diversity, right, and its warmth and its generosity. Yeah. That's the other thing.
Okay, so you're celebrating 50th season. I paused because if people were paying attention, we called you a founding artistic director. Yes. I'm going to come up on my 30th anniversary. I'm like, people are starting to do the math, and I don't like this. That's unbelievable. It's 50 years and that you are a founding artistic director. I'm curious, though, what do you think for the future then?
Mm-hmm. Well, obviously, I'm going to be turning over the, there's going to be another generation that's going to take it further. That's ageless. All I'm saying.
We are going to live forever.
Yeah, right. No, I'm excited about what we have, what we might have in store. But I also know it's, leadership. You can't just sit on something forever. And I am not a young woman anymore. And there are things I'd like. What is my second or third or whatever.
Your next act?
Yeah, what's my next act? I'm not sort of in line to, I haven't said I'm leaving at the end of this season. That's not what's happening, but we are looking to think about what's the future of Main Street Theater and who's going to lead it there. And there's a lot of growth that we need to have in certain areas, and it's probably going to take new minds to help us get there. So, it's exciting.
Well, we love your mind.
Rebecca Greene Udden is the founding artistic director of Main Street Theater. Rebecca, thank you for joining us today on Hello
Thank you for
Houston.
having me.
Tom Stoppard's Leopoldstadt will run at Main Street Theater beginning tomorrow, March 28th through May 3rd. For more information, you can visit mainstreettheater.com. Coming up, we're going to continue discussing today's top headlines. We'll also discuss the hemp ban that will soon take effect in Texas. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
In Providence, Rhode Island, Marta Martinez turned a house into an art gallery.
People who walk in tell me it just feels like home.
Then the Trump administration canceled her grant.
They were very specific that we could not promote gender ideology, and it was very vague. I guess, what does that mean?
The fight over arts funding on the next Reveal.
You can hear that tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Rice University's Kinder Institute Annual Luncheon, April 27th, sharing findings from the 45th Kinder Houston Area Survey. Tickets at kinder.rice.edu.
Partly sunny day today, getting up to about 86. It's 78. This is your NPR station, KUHF Houston, News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12 o'clock.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, the Senate has voted to fund most of the Department of Homeland Security except for additional funding for ICE and Border Patrol. We'll discuss the latest developments and more of today's top headlines. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Celestia Sherman. We'll also talk with Texas Tribune mental health reporter Stephen Simpson about the impending ban on smokable hemp products.
Plus, we'll also chat with Houston's own DeQuina Moore, who's here to tell us about the national tour of the Broadway hit musical Some Like It Hot, currently playing at the Hobby Center.
Also, we want to hear from you. Give us a call or send us a text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Don't forget, you can also watch us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston continues right after the news from NPR and News 88.7.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The TSA staffing shortages at airports that triggered historic screening delays could end as early as today. The Senate passed a bill to fund most of the Department of Homeland Security except for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. The House is considering it now. TSA officers have been working without pay for weeks. The White House is disputing any notion of administration ties to insider trading in connection with oil market trades. Around the time President Trump announced Monday he was pausing plans to bomb Iran's energy infrastructure. There was a point where the price of oil had dramatically fallen. Anyone who bet on crude prices dropping made a lot of money. Bloomberg reported that trades were made in the oil market with an estimated value of more than $500 million. Paul Krugman, a Nobel Prize-winning economist at the City University of New York, tells NPR that he thinks all of it adds up to insider trading that could be linked to members of the Trump administration.
There was nothing else going on that would justify large transactions at that specific moment. We don't know that it was somebody linked to the Trump administration, though it would be pretty weird that someone else would have suddenly decided to make these big bets on the future. It really strains credulity to suggest that this wasn't somebody with inside information.
A White House spokesperson tells NPR in an email that any implication that administration officials are engaged in such activity without evidence is, quote, baseless and irresponsible. The White House reaffirms that all federal employees are barred from using non-public information for financial benefit. A White House lawyer says the president, quote, performs his constitutional duties in an ethically sound manner and to suggest otherwise is either ill-informed or malicious, end quote. The House Ethics Committee has found clear and convincing evidence that Representative Sheila Cherflis McCormick violated House rules. NPR's Barbara Sprint reports this comes after a rare marathon public hearing.
The Florida Democrat was indicted in November on charges alleging she stole $5 million in disaster relief funds and used it to bankroll her 2021 campaign. She pleaded not guilty. Bipartisan investigators have been probing the matter for 2 years. They alleged more than 24 violations, including improper receipt of funds and commingling of personal and campaign funds. In April, the committee will recommend a punishment to be voted on by the full House, something that could range from a censure to expulsion itself. In a statement to NPR, the Congresswoman says she looks forward to proving her innocence. Barbara Sprint, NPR News.
U.S. stocks are trading lower this hour. The Dow Jones Industrial Average down 496 points or more than 1% at 45,463. The S&P and NASDAQ are both down 1% to 1.5%. It's NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Gail DeLauder. They're investigating in the city of South Houston after an officer was shot and critically hurt early this morning. Police say it happened after a low-speed chase. The officer was shot through a car window and the alleged gunman was shot and killed. Neighbor Joshua Martinez says he heard about 20 gunshots. He says he's surprised it happened in his neighborhood.
I've never seen, I hear gunshots, but it's not like you see somebody like dead or something or anything like that. They just shoot to the ground or something.
The incident happened around 1 this morning. A former Missouri City police officer has been sentenced to 15 years in prison for a wreck that killed 3 people. Rodney Stewart lost his wife and son in the crash.
15 years is not enough. That's telling me it's only 5 years for my son Mason, 5 years for Angela, and 5 years for Michael. That's not enough.
A jury convicted Vladimir Viveros of 3 counts of aggravated assault by a public servant. He was driving over 100 miles an hour in his squad car without lights and sirens when he hit another vehicle. One of the victims was handcuffed in the back seat of his car at the time of the crash. The University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston is expanding access to its aerospace medicine program. Nurses, pharmacists, and dentists can now earn a master's degree from the school. Dr. Ronick Shaw directs the aerospace medicine program.
By designing this master's degree and making it accessible, we are hoping to be proactive in trying to meet the needs of workforce development.
The deadline to apply for the fall semester is June 1st. The Astros continue their series against the Los Angeles Angels tonight. First pitch at Daikin Park is just after 7. Also, the Rockets play the Grizzlies in Memphis, and they have a 7 o'clock tip-off. Cloudy skies tonight, breezy. Overnight low should be around 60. Sunny and breezy tomorrow, high near 76. I'm Gail DeLauder, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include United States Postal Service, dedicated to putting reliability at the core of USPS Ground Advantage to help businesses operate smoothly. More at USPS.com/Ground Advantage.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
You know, for only 2 of us in-house, because Frank has the day off, we've been very chatty today.
We've been very chatty. Well, it's Friday.
It is.
It's the end of the week. We want to thank you for joining us.
I'm worried, though, they keep catching me on the mic, like we're, and then the lights go on. I'm like, we're on the air.
Chatty.
Chatty today.
But again, we want to thank you for joining us, whether you are tuning into News 88.7 or you're joining us on YouTube. We are glad you are here listening to Hello Houston.
Okay, I need your help, Celeste, and I need your help listening to us, to what you think. So, I've been talking about my healthcare worker. Getting a second healthcare person to help out at home. We have enough hours that we should have 2 people. So we finally found someone. Great. We have a new one. She started. This morning I came downstairs to find a shopping list of things I should buy to have in the house.
Right.
What's on the list are things, obvious things, milk, eggs, bread. Okay, I get that.
Yep.
Also on the list are things like chocolate syrup, stuff for tacos, ribs. I don't know. Bacon. Am I being...
So just to clarify, these are things...
She wants us to purchase to have in the house.
For your mom?
I'm assuming so, but my 90-year-old mom, who's been losing her teeth, I don't think is going to be gnawing on ribs anytime soon.
I get it, but I also, you got to think about this. She's taking care of your mom, so you want her to be happy.
I know.
That's the way I always look at it, with my support at home. Miss Gladys, I want you to be happy.
That's what Walt said to me.
You're taking
Make them
care of
happy, they'll make mom happy.
Exactly.
Do I really need to buy a slab of ribs?
Unless she's making some for you. If you're going to get a 6 out of it, yeah.
I guess so. My bottom question to everyone out there, please share with me ideas on how do you manage in-home help without seeming rough. I'm not a good manager, I guess, is the problem.
It's hard.
Regard,
it's really, really
because they're part of your family almost when they're there.
They are, but you also have that employee-employer feeling. There's a lot.
Yeah. Anyway, speaking of things being a lot, she probably wants the air conditioning turned up too. So that'll lead us into the weather. So tell me how the weather's going.
Today is going to be partly cloudy skies with a warm high of 86. And tonight it's going to be a comfortable 65. So it's going to be cooling down. It's going to be a beautiful weekend. Be sure to get out there because it's going to be warming up later on this week.
Heat up the grill. You did a good job on that.
Thank you.
I'd say you could heat up the grill, cook some ribs on them. You live in my house now. It seems like you can.
A little bit of chocolate syrup.
We've got a lot still coming up in this hour. We're going to be talking about the change in what is available when you're looking for hemp products in our state. Seems like smokable hemp products going away.
We really talk a lot about this, and I'm
going to assume for two of us who really don't take any of it, we talk a lot about it. And also coming up, what we're really excited about, DeQuina Moore is a local, she grew up in our area, has become very successful, has been on Broadway, has been in movies and TV. She's back in town starring in the national tour of Some Like It Hot. She's going to be here with us to talk about the show and her career and coming home and performing for a hometown audience. That's still to come. That's the happy part of the next hour. Sad part takes us right into the headlines.
Well, interesting for sure. 3 decades after Lovers Lane murders in Houston, police say a man has been arrested and charged. Floyd William Parrott, 64, was arrested Wednesday in Nebraska and has been charged with capital murder in the 1990 deaths of Garland Andy Atkinson and Cheryl Henry, according to Houston police. A press conference just ended with DA Sean Tier and Mayor John Whitmire, and to tell us all about it and the most recent updates is Houston public media reporter Kyle McClenagan, who is here joining us now. Kyle, welcome to Hello Houston. What can you tell us about this case?
Yeah, so at the press conference today, Sean Tier, the DA for Harris County, didn't share a ton of details about the investigation and the prosecution because he wants to save that for the trial. But they did share photos of Parrott, the man accused of killing the 2 young people in the 90s in Houston, and a photo of a fake cop car that Parrott was allegedly driving during the time. And the reason they shared these photos is because investigators believe that Parrott may have been impersonating a police officer at the time and committing additional crimes. So they're asking anyone who has any information that may be related either to this specific case or any other case, or even saw him during the time in the 90s, to please come forward and reach out to police.
And this is making national news. I mean, People's reporting it and pushing this out. Kyle, talk to me a little bit about the case, what was happening in 1990 about this. Nearly, 36 years ago.
Yeah, so it's been a cold case for 30 years. And the most recent development, they haven't provided a specific timeline on it yet, but they were able to use DNA collected on the scene from the 90s and match it to DNA in a national database connected to a separate sexual assault case. And that's how they connected it to Parrott. And one interesting thing Tier mentioned today during the press conference that before this DNA match, Parrott had not been one of the main, I think they said they interviewed over 100 suspects over the years.
Wow.
Help people understand what actually happened that night in what you can that can be appropriate to share online or on.
Yeah, so one of our colleagues, Adam Zuvanich, reported on it yesterday when the news broke that they had arrested him. But at the time, Parrott was working about a mile away from where the bodies of Atkinson and Henry were found. And it said the couple had been together at a Houston nightclub the night before and were found dead at 1300 Enclave Parkway on the morning of August 23rd, 1990. So police responded after a security guard approached the vehicle that was parked in a cul-de-sac for several hours without moving, and they found blood in the car as well as a purse belonging to Henry. So they were both found later dead with their, this is pretty graphic, but they're...
Brutally.
Yes, yeah. And their hands tied behind their backs, according to charging documents from the time.
And I'm assuming the outrage was, I was not here at the time, but the outrage was paramount.
Yeah, it was a big deal at the time, and especially because it became a cold case. And so today, Tier said that the police department never really gave up investigating it, but that new DNA technology and then also new eyes with the help from the FBI and then cold case investigators in Houston were able to finally make this connection.
But I guess what I'm getting at is at the time, they didn't know anything. And the fear of what that meant. I mean, this has been turned into a movie. There's a book about it, multiple reporting on it over the years. but that to think that such a horrific crime would go cold. And you would think somebody had to see something, somebody had to know something. And all these years later now, finally, we have what seems to be a crack in the case, a solution to it potentially. Do we know from family members of the victims any reaction? Have we heard anything along that line yet?
Yes, one of the sisters of one of the victims was there today. And of course, it was an emotional press conference, but she spoke about how just grateful they were that an arrest had been made, and that, as Sean Tier said, they're now going from investigation to prosecution.
Wow.
But Tier said they're still leaving the door open to the potential for possibly a second person being involved. He said some evidence had shown that maybe this wasn't a one-person thing, these murders. So it's still open. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier on, they think Parrott may have committed some other crimes while impersonating a police officer, and that if anyone has information to come forward.
That's so fascinating. You know, I think this also sends a signal to other families in the area that have cold cases, that have, cases that have gone cold of loved ones that they're still trying to find justice for. Did the district attorney have any other things to say moving forward? What's next? What are the next steps that they're going to be taking?
Yeah, so right now they're still trying to get Parrott from Nebraska to Texas.
Okay.
He's challenging the extradition.
Has he said anything about this? Or has his representative said anything?
We haven't found yet if he's been appointed or found a defense attorney yet. But what I've heard and what I've seen from other reports is that he's denying it.
Yeah.
But Tier said that they're going to get a governor's warrant, which is something they use to kind of extradite someone faster, but that it may take up to 45 days before Parrott is in Harris County.
In that time of wait, though, they could make all the motions move forward on the case, or does he have to be present before they can do any of that?
That's a good question. I don't know for sure. So, but Tier said today is kind of the day where they're moving, like I said, from investigation to prosecuting.
Do we know what Parrott was being held for?
He's being charged with capital murder.
But I mean, is he a free man right now?
No. He was arrested Wednesday with the help of the FBI.
But he was out until he was arrested. He wasn't in prison for something else and they fingered him.
That's my understanding. I know he had been arrested on previous occasions for different crimes, I think for impersonating a police officer and other things, but he was just in Nebraska. The Tier said they don't believe he was in Nebraska like on the run or on the lam. He had been there for several years.
And do we know, was he local here or was he passing through here?
They believe he may have been working as like a bouncer or something in that regard at some nightclubs locally.
Right, and during the 90s.
Yes, during the 90s.
And we believe he was impersonating an officer and that there may be other crimes he might have been involved with in that guise, correct?
Yes, that's what the DA's office is saying.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, we want to thank Houston public media reporter Kyle McClenagan for joining us. Kyle, thanks for joining us on Hello Houston.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And if you want to check out more of this story, you can go to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Moving to another story that's in the news, more than a dozen No Kings protests are set for the Houston area this Saturday as part of the nationwide wave of demonstrations against President Donald Trump and his administration, a movement that represents, quote, nonviolent national day of action and mass mobilization in response to the increasing authoritarian excesses and corruption of the Trump administration, end quote. Organizers say thousands of protests are planned across the county, across the country, I should say, led by a coalition that includes the grassroots 50-51 movement, short for 50 protests, 50 states, one movement, first organized online in early 2025. Similar events have already taken place in Houston over the past year. The largest local gathering is scheduled for Houston City Hall from noon to 4 p.m. You can find a full list of area protests at houstonpublicmedia.org. And so that brings us to the question, what are your thoughts? Do these demonstrations still work? Are you taking part in the one tomorrow, or one of the ones tomorrow, I should say? Give us a call, 713-440-8870.
You know, I would say that No Kings is less a single protest and more of a political barometer, right? You know, we measure the resistance and people that are speaking out, and we see this come up. And I think it's a part of our, democratic
I am worried.
Civility.
I'm all for protests.
Yeah.
I am worried that repeatedly having the no kings ones when there's not an active election going on is problematic. I strongly believe you want to do these protests, these kind of protests, do them on election day or during a period of early voting, and then motivate the people that come to these rallies to go to the polls. Here's the moment, because they get this mass turnout. Think about the one that happened after the 2016 election, and they all had their little hats and stuff, and they had that big protest, and a ton of people showed up. But the problem was people weren't voting. If you get people out there to say, we're against this, then go to the polls. Now, I'm hoping, and I'm sure organizers think, this excitement, this momentum they build within the community will pay off when elections come. But put them together. People love to go to a rally. Do it in front of polls.
Yeah, see, I actually think that would make people coming out to vote more intimidating. I think that there's a line, right now.
You may be right. I don't often say that, but you may be right.
You don't want people out.
Right.
Tensions are already high. There's already a lot of emotion around voting. There's just getting to the polls in general can be a lot. So then if you think like there's going to be a huge crowd and rally out there, that would be a deterrent for me. I'd be like, you know what? I don't want to have to deal with traffic. I don't want to have to deal with people. We also don't want to take law enforcement away from.
Okay, tell me this. If the rally was on Saturday and voting was on Tuesday, you get all excited and into it at the rally. Would that carry over a few days and make you more?
Yeah,
See,
but I don't think it
that's
should be on the
right,
day.
Yeah. Okay, I'm evolving my position on this one. I just think that the beliefs and the support that come behind these rallies, I love, and I love that people who are passionate about something they believe in can peacefully gather to promote that.
Yeah, and this is
talk
less about a
doesn't
side.
Right. If talk doesn't become action, what's the point of talk? And I joke about that in a work environment, too. People will often get together in the coffee room and complain about something. And then they'll get together the next day and complain about it again. And they'll complain about it again. But if action isn't being taken, what are you doing with all that complaining? And probably a therapist could come on and explain to me why that's healthy. I understand, but I'm just saying.
Well, I just think it shows, grassroots efforts are still there. People are still monitoring, trying to hold accountability. And wanting their voices to be heard. And I think that is still very, very important.
Yeah. I'm also going to go back to what we were talking about before we even sat down with Kyle. Before we got into the news, I was talking about the shopping list. I want to put a disclaimer out there. I did say to her, if there's some things we need in the house that we don't have, leave me a list. I was expecting you need more milk or you need more eggs,
I always think like Lysol wipes.
Right. That's what I'm expecting. So maybe there wasn't clarity on my part. I'll say that. Some of the folks online have commented, Sean commented, I wonder what's listed on Ernie's rider when he books a gig. I don't have a rider. I'm just happy to be invited to be someplace.
Are you kidding me? Only pink Skittles. Absolutely. No direct eye contact.
Okay, if I have time for a quick story, I was asked to do a production of Rocky Horror, and somebody just thought it'd be a great idea if I played the narrator in Rocky Horror. And I got to read the script, so that's right up my line. I don't have to actually learn anything. And so I thought it would be funny to send in a rider because I thought it'd be so hysterical. So with the folks here in the office, we put together the most outrageous thing. Mr. Manous will feel the need to criticize other people's performances because he wants the best for the production, but no one is allowed to discuss Mr. Manous's performance. Things like that were written in this rider. So we submitted the rider to the guy that was doing the production. He actually has been on the show since. He didn't know it was a joke. And he called a friend of mine who's also in the theater and said, we just got this from Ernie. Do you think this is serious? I mean, how are we supposed to handle all these requests? And the person there was like, oh, no, it's got to be a joke. I mean, I think it's a joke. I mean, it could be, I don't know. And I thought, oh my God, how do you people not know this is a joke?
Well, Ernie, I hate to break it to you.
So I've had a fake rider, Sean. It was not green M&Ms and do not look me in the eyes.
Yeah.
But
fake
anyway.
in air quotes. Okay, so.
We're having too much fun
We are
today.
having too much fun, but it's Friday.
It is.
Coming up on Hello Houston, we're going to talk with Stephen Simpson, mental health reporter for the Texas Tribune, about the impending ban on smokable hemp products. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
You can hear it tonight at 10 p.m.
A high-end jeweler risked everything to make the world's largest bejeweled egg, an obsession that brought his business and his family crashing down.
The egg was the source of all ill and evil and suffering and sorrow that the family went through.
A dazzling, very expensive egg and the curse behind it, plus all the latest news, Sunday on Weekend Edition from NPR News.
You can listen Sunday morning starting at 7.
On the next Science Friday, bird flu has kind of flown off the national news radar. But as local reports of dead birds pile up, how prepared are we?
We are letting this virus have 1,000 shots on goal every day. Maybe it takes 1 in a billion to finally make it a pandemic, but we're letting it have that opportunity.
That's on Science Friday from WNYC Studios.
It's coming up today at 1 p.m.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Metro. Introducing the Ride Metro Fare Card. The Ride Metro Fare system replaces the Metro Q Fare Card for bus and rail fares. Details at ridemetro.org/fare system.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from DeQuina, presenting the first Houston recital by pianist Yuliana Avdeeva, playing preludes by Chopin and Shostakovich, April 14th at the Wortham Center. Tickets at dequina.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manous and Celeste Diaz-Sherman.
Starting March 31st, smokable hemp products will effectively vanish from store shelves under new rules from the Texas Department of State Health Services. The changes also bring stricter testing for product, new packaging requirements, and sharply higher licensing fees, cost that some business owners say could force them to shut their doors. To tell us more, we're joined by Stephen Simpson, the mental health reporter for the Texas Tribune. Stephen, welcome back to Hello Houston.
Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, and if you would like to join the conversation, you can call or text 713-440-8870.
Okay, so I'm even a little confused what we have agreed on and what is happening, because even in Celeste Reed, these products are effectively vanishing from store shelves. But then in the next paragraph, but they could have new packaging, higher licensing fees. What actually is happening? And if you are somebody who enjoys these products, what are you going to see differently and when?
So pretty much the big two things that are changing is a total THC test, which is going to completely remove the majority of smokable THC products from stores. What will remain will be edibles and beverages for the most part.
But smokable ones will be gone.
Yeah, the smokable ones will probably be gone.
Okay. Continue. I didn't mean to cut you off. Just wanted to clarify.
No problem. And I was also adding that last year, they also removed THC vape pens. So that pretty much is why they're saying the smokable THC market is being eliminated with these regulations.
But, I think, from what I understand, lawmakers are essentially saying that there's been a loophole this has been a loophole that's been an issue of basically having marijuana legalized light. And now they're trying to pull back and or enforce and be more stricter on the THC aspect and closing that loophole to make sure that marijuana can't seep through.
Right. And one of the main problems was that when they passed the law, there was the intention of hemp being just used for industrial reasons. But the main problem is there's not really any difference between hemp and marijuana beyond the Delta-9 THC amount. So there was sort of an ability just to turn hemp into recreational THC, which is what we see today.
So when we talk about the level of THC, what is legal, what isn't at this point, and then what changes on March 31st?
So pretty much what was legal at this point was anything that was below the threshold of 0.9 or 0.6% delta 9, which is a chemical compound found usually in marijuana. Okay. What was making hemp be a smokable recreational THC is that these tests never tested for THCA, which is a chemical that also does exactly the same thing as delta 9, but only once it's been ignited. And so that's sort of how that loophole was kind of invented.
Okay. So now what happens then? THCA is gone now? We
Yes,
can't,
so
if they test it and it's there, it's out.
Yeah, so now with the total THC test, it tests for all THC compounds. So if your THC goes beyond a 0.6 or a 0.9, then it's no longer an eligible product to be sold.
You know, we continue to see this argument, this kind of political divide that we see in banning versus regulation and understanding what is working, what's not working. Walk us through what is at the core of this kind of policy fight.
Yes. So what the pretty much main issue is that a lot of the lawmakers never wanted a recreational THC market. The problem now is that a lot of the Texas public has gotten used to having a recreational THC market. It's been here since 2019. And so what has kind of been done is that they're trying to find a middle ground where the beverages and edibles can still be used, but the smokables are kind of removed. There's been a lot of complaints from people about the smell of the THC stuff, the way it looks and things like that. And so I think it's kind of a compromise that lawmakers are trying to do along with the state agencies.
Help me understand this part of it then. If you still have edibles, you still have gummies, things like that, is that they are lower levels, that they have a different effect in the body? Why would you make that division between the two if they're both depending on the same compounds?
Edibles usually take a longer time to kind of implement into the system. The danger of that is sometimes you don't know how much you're taking, and so that can catch up to you just by surprise. But for the most part, edibles usually have a lower dosage, and it takes like maybe an hour or so to kind of kick in. With smokables, you could be just smoking something and start immediately feeling those effects, which is some of the concerns about like people driving while impaired or things like that.
But wouldn't you think it would actually be more dangerous to not know how much you're taking in and when it's going to hit, as opposed to if you're smoking? So, and the reason I ask this is from the health point of view, or whatever their argument is why it shouldn't be in the marketplace. Because if it's just because, there's the illegal market for it, well, then the obvious answer is legalize it and tax it. But I'm assuming they're saying, oh no, there's health reasons why we shouldn't have it. But then those health reasons don't apply when you ingest it a different way. I'm lost in the logic of it, not so much the morality of it.
Yeah, there's also a sense of that some of these rules cannot be implemented on the beverage industry. They're under some of the Texas Alcohol Beverage Commission. And so they are not doing the same kind of rules that they're being implemented over here on the smokable THC side. So they're kind of a little bit exempt, and which has kind of been to the chagrin of some of the hemp retailers, which are saying like, why are they getting exempt treatment compared to us who are just trying to sell our products at the stores?
Right. And one of the parts of this, we're looking at is the sharply higher licensing fees. I mean, that is, I would say, really where, Texas business owners are going to feel it most.
Yes. I've been talking to several retailers, and they said this is going to be pretty much a death blow to a lot of rural hemp businesses. A lot of these were like mom and top shops that were like put up using retirement savings. They've been around for about 2-3 years. They haven't even really seen a profit yet. They're just now starting to get settled. And like they said, this is pretty much $5,000, going from $258 to $5,000 for a retail fee, and from $500 to like $10,000 for a manufacturing fee is almost way too much for an annual fee.
Well, to talk about those licensing fees for just a second, the logic behind, and we talked about this before when you were on the show, the logic behind raising these fees so high, what I don't understand is, so you're still saying it's okay to sell this stuff if you can afford to play in our game. And so it's almost as though you're doing it, encouraging larger corporations to come in and saying, nah, a mom and pop shouldn't be able to play in this game. Am I missing something in that argument? What is the logic behind it?
Well, that's what sort of the hemp retailers are saying. They're saying, so what you guys have done is punished us for fighting back, and you're going to give this market over to monopolies. Right. But what people on the other side are saying is that what's going on is that you had no enforcement. You guys were running roughshod over this market with no rules. So we need these higher licensing fees to pay officers to start enforcing the rules on you guys. They said that this is needed to create an agency to enforce rules on him.
But I also think that the state, from what I understand, is also saying that there needs to be more product testing and, lab verification of the THC levels, checking the contamination. So it's almost like a safety type of safeguard for public consumption.
Yes, yeah, it's almost like saying that they're putting these rules on them now is kind of overwhelming to a lot of the people. And so they're saying like, this is way too unfair. You should have like slow rolled this out or something else. Like they don't disagree with the rules so much, except for like the THC probably, but for like the overall, just like hitting this with it at this speed is going to just kill the industry, especially when you lose 50% of your product overnight.
Right. Yeah. And I think to, Ernie's point, large chains can really absorb this. We see this almost in every industry when we look at enforcement of fees, and where independent, smaller businesses really can't take on that. They work on such thin margins.
Right. Yeah. Right. And they said this is an unfair expectation placed on the hemp industry that you don't see in like the alcohol or industry or the tobacco industry. Like these rules were slow rolled on them, not just dumped on them at one time.
Right. So, Stephen, from your perspective and from what you've been, looking at and covering, do you think this really is about safety, or is it really about shrinking the industry?
I think it's a mixture of both. I think there was a lot of unchecked hemp kind of going around the state. There was a lot of products being sold in gas stations that were way too high that needed to be regulated. And a lot of people in the hemp industry agreed that need to be regulated. What there seems to be the concern about now is that it's going to be over-regulated to the point where you're killing the industry and achieving the goals of what the hemp ban was from last year. And so they're thinking that this is not even an attempt at regulation. This is an attempt to try to eliminate us.
Yeah, for folks who aren't following this closely enough and only remember the governor vetoing the ban last summer, what happened? How did we get then to this point? And then what you're saying is effectively we're getting that ban, or will get that ban anyway.
Yeah, so pretty much what I've heard from the hemp retailers is that the language that was in the hemp ban from last year that Abbott eventually vetoed after a large public outcry came out. There was a bunch of letters and people demanding that they keep these products available to the public. Abbott pretty much vetoed it, told these state agencies to regulate it and enforce those regulations. The problem is that these regulations, according to these hemp retailers and the industry leaders, are pretty much the essential same ban language. The total THC testing was also in the ban language, and so was a lot of these manufacturing fee increases.
Okay, so take me then into the whole idea of if regulation, I would assume, most people can find an area where there should be regulation or guidelines in any industry to keep things safe and all of that. Which I don't understand then is the huge increase in fees. And I know what you're saying is, but it's to help build an enforcement arm for this. But doesn't it make more sense first, let's put those regulations out and see if the marketplace responds to them and starts doing what is considered appropriate for people to have safe consumption of these, instead of destroying, as we've mentioned, mom and pop businesses. I guess there's a disconnect in here, even if you're saying that's what the money's going for.
Yeah, and that's sort of what a lot of people are saying in rural Texas is like, even if you wanted to regulate it, doing it at this rate is going to eliminate access options to a lot of people in these areas of the state. Like for some of these mom and pop stores, they're the only hemp option they have. And so they're going to have to go to online options where there's not Texas testing or bookkeeping or sometimes the illicit market.
Does this then have legs into other industries? Could we see it then touching the beverage industry? Or has the beverage industry so entrenched itself in our culture that you're not touching them?
From what I've heard from various people in the hemp industry, they believe too many alcohol companies are involved into the beverage industry that they're not going to be able to regulate that high because it would take a major loss at these companies. And so once they kind of get involved, things usually stay where they're at.
I want to remind everyone, Stephen Simpson is the mental health reporter for the Texas Tribune. If you'd like to join the conversation, give us a call, 713-440-8870. Your title, Mental Health Reporter. Talk about what we know at this point in regard to the impact that these products do have on people's mental health.
Well, it's kind of hard to say because there's not a lot of official cannabis research that's ever been done when it comes to mental health. But there has been various studies that show that sometimes THC is good at helping anxiety and depression and those kind of things. But also, overuse of cannabis could have negative effects on mental health. There's been cases of children that were undiagnosed with a mental illness taking some of these THC products, and it increases undiagnosed schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. So there are risks to taking some of these products. It's just about knowing your own mind, really.
It's disturbing, worrisome, but also I just don't understand fully the approach that this is taken. It seems as though it looked like a good voter issue that politicians thought people would get behind. It changed on them, then they were stuck, and then they had to shift. And it feels like we just got sold a bill of goods, just cloaked another way.
And I will say you are giving out the exact same sentiment a lot of other people have been saying and emailing me over the past few days. It's like we did all this work and they found a different way to ban it.
Right.
But I've heard from retailers they're planning on filing a lawsuit and trying to get this stopped at some point soon. Probably won't be before the deadline, but it should be coming.
And that's what I was going to ask. That's exactly what I was going to ask you, Stephen. So do you think if a lawsuit is filed, do you think if there is some type of stopping of, is there some type of stopping of this?
Yes, they're pretty much everyone is putting their hopes on that they can get an injunction from the judge pretty much to stop the enforcement of these rules until a decision is made by the court if the state agency has overstepped their bounds. What they're saying is that with the total THC testing rule, by saying that THCA is illegal, that is overstepping the federal ability of saying hemp is legal. And so that is what they're kind of pinning their hopes on.
And we do have quite a few comments coming in right now from our YouTube community. Earl Grey T-Cat says it's so dumb to ban such things, just make it legal and tax it. I think Ernie also mentioned something like that. What is the difference between getting high on hemp and the buzz from drinking beer? And that was Jacob from Montrose. Sean Radigan mentioned still allowing edibles and drinks and smokable CBD makes the ban quite arbitrary and capricious. So, what are your thoughts? Overall sentiment, people seem to be pretty upset about this.
Yeah, that's pretty much the sentiment I've heard from almost a lot of people is like, this was a popular product. If they saw from last year how many people it's popular amongst veterans, amongst people that have older people, that have people that have like mental illness, people, even children, some children that have like seizure disorders take these products. And so to kind of pull this on people is very, I guess, unpopular, but there probably won't be that many consequences, I guess, is what people are banking on, specifically in Austin.
And are there any stipulations around medical hemp? I mean, is that even a thing?
Well, pretty much there is, I guess, CBD is about where you can kind of consider is like medical hemp. And there really hasn't been that many regulations placed on it. I know a lot of the medical side has been placed onto the medical cannabis program, compassionate use, which is opened up a lot of their options for people. So I know that was one of the things lawmakers wanted to do when they really initiated the hemp ban idea, was to get rid of hemp and then pitch compassionate use as a replacement.
What if you want to order some of these products from another state that doesn't have these regulations? Can that happen, or is this ban blocking mail-in?
No, there's no blocking of mail-in. It's really pretty much up to the mailing offices to kind of make that determination, or the business website. But a lot of the times the businesses don't care. They'll just be like, where do you live? They'll just send it anyway.
I'll often joke around and say that, any question you can possibly have, you can Google, because somebody else has always asked that question. So I look globally then in this issue. We look at other countries, other places that have dealt with this issue and have come up with solutions. Where have we seen it work the best when it comes to legalization of marijuana or THC products?
Well, I wouldn't even have to say we have to go globally. I'd say we just go a little bit few states up. When we look at Colorado, for the most part, they've been able to use pretty much recreational THC and hemp at the same time. What they did is they put a bunch of restrictions on hemp, on like some of the chemicals and those properties. And so the popularity of hemp there is kind of tapered down for pretty much just people that want that medical benefit, and then letting recreational THC be the cannabis market. So it's kind of allowed two markets to thrive at the same time.
Right. Stephen Simpson is the mental health reporter for the Texas Tribune. Stephen, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Coming up, Houston's own DeQuina Moore. Stay with us as Hello Houston continue.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free and easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
This week on The Sam Sanders Show, the latest season of The Bachelorette is canceled.
It is incredibly unprecedented, particularly for a franchise like this, as established as this, to film an entire season and then have it never happen.
What this latest scandal says about the state of all reality television.
You can listen to The Sam Sanders Show Sunday at 6 p.m.
Houston Matters highlights the people, places, issues, and ideas that define Greater Houston. And we do it live on the air weekday mornings at 9 on News 88.7. But we know you're not always available then to listen. So subscribe to our podcast wherever you get yours, or find each day's program to stream online at your leisure at houstonpublicmedia.org. And reach out with questions or comments anytime. Email us at talk@houstonmatters.org.
Hi, I'm John Donvan, host of Open to Debate, where we bring you open-minded discussions and debates about the issues affecting our lives. Everything from science and tech to politics, culture, and foreign policy. In our divided nation, we feel it's more important than ever for people to be open-minded, open to disagreement, and open to listening to the other side. Join me in being open to debate.
Sunday night at 10 p.m. on News 88.7.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manous and Celeste Diaz-Sherman.
All right, believe it or not, we made it to the end of the week.
It's the end of the week, Ernie.
So what are your plans?
I don't have a ton of plans. We're going to enjoy the weather. That's what we're going to do. And we have a t-ball game. My son has his first t-ball game. He's 5 years old, and we're going to be out doing that.
Well, I just found out from chatting with my next door neighbor, who actually did take his grill out last night and was grilling. I keep talking about it, and I still haven't done it. But he mentioned that Saturday night down at the Bayou, Buffalo Bayou, they are going to have night light, which is like lit up things along the bayou. And so if you're downtown at the old landing, whatever they call that landing right downtown, why was I forgetting the name of it? I want to say Arnold's Landing, and that's not the name of it. But anyway, right around there, the back end of downtown is where they're going to, down around the bayou, have all these really cool lights and stuff going on.
Very cool.
So I'm going to go there.
I might meet you there.
You might meet me there. Well, I'll keep an eye out for you.
Okay.
But you know what? Where I did see you recently,
yes,
Tuesday night, we were both out, and we got to go to the opening night of Some Like It Hot, the musical.
Incredible.
Wonderful show. Broadway at the Hobby Center is currently presenting the first national tour of the Broadway hit musical, Some Like It Hot. It's going to run through Sunday, March 29th, only a few more days. It's based on the 1959 film starring Marilyn Monroe, Tony Curtis, Jack Lemmon. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. Some Like It Hot, the musical, is a glorious, big, high-kicking story of two musicians on the run, hiding out in an all-girls band after witnessing a mob hit. With its irresistible combination of heart and laughter, songs and dance, Some Like It Hot, I'm reading you all these wonderful reviews, is a tap-dancing, razzle-dazzling embrace of everything you love about musical theater. And one thing we love about musical theater is Houston's own DeQuina Moore is starring as Sweet Sue, the band leader of this all-girl band. And guess what? She's back in town, and she's with us right now. DeQuina, hello there.
Hello. I'm so happy to be back.
So good to have you back. You've been on our show before. I went back and I looked. We've done a bunch of these over the years.
Yes, we have. We had fun every time.
We do.
Yes. DeQuina, how does it feel to be home? And by the way, you are incredible.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you. That means the world to me.
Yes.
It feels amazing. It feels incredible. I tell my family all the time, when I get to perform at home, every single time it feels like a Broadway debut, because my family don't always, my friends don't, all my closest family and friends don't always get to see me, because I have to travel a lot, and they don't always get to catch, whatever it is that I'm into. And so it's just unbelievable. Old teachers come back, and, just a plethora of people that I love and adore and just want to make proud, along with my city of H-Town.
Well, tonight after the show, I'm doing the talk back with the cast, and they said to me, try and convince her to come to the talk back. Have her come to the talk back. So I'm doing my part, just asking. Not going to hold you to a committal, but if you want to join us for the talk back after the show, we'll be there.
Anything for you. Anything.
Oh, I like that. I have to say, one thing that surprised me was when I saw you on stage, you look so short, so tiny in this production.
I am short. And look, I have on 3-inch heels. Ain't that something?
Well, the stature.
But you know what? I will say my co-stars are also very tall. So they also are not helping my issue.
Right. Now, your stature may be small, but your talent is huge and on display in this. And I'll have to tell you, I didn't realize you were in the show until I saw you come out that night, Tuesday night. And I was like, oh, my God. And then Celeste and I were both talking about it. No disrespect to anyone else in the cast. It's a wonderful show. You not just steal the show, you lift it up, you bring it such joy, such talent, and we're so proud you're a Houstonian doing all that.
Oh my gosh. Look, I have chills. Thank you so much. And especially, absolutely no disrespect. I'm on the stage with a plethora of triple threats that are just dynamic. So to get that compliment from you with regard to this phenomenal cast is just... My heart is full. Thank you so much. I have a blast every night. We're getting to tell this amazing story from 1933 about prohibition and people wanting to live their dreams, and it's full of tap dance. I love this show because it's so well rounded. It has everything from dance to music to acting, of course, because it's a musical, but it also has action, which the men love because, they're like telling their wives, I don't want to go see a musical. They come see this, and they're like, oh, wait a minute. I got all kinds of action in this musical. This is not a musical. This is almost an action film.
Well, you talk about triple threat. And this show, you really have to be, and for those who aren't in the know, when you say triple threat, you're talking about someone who can sing, dance, and act. And Broadway performers oftentimes have to do all of that because that's what a show may call for. In later years, I think what we've seen more is they find the folks that dance and they put them over there. The folks that sing may make up a chorus that helps support a star who can act but maybe doesn't have the chops. In this show, all of you have to be able to do all of it, and you do.
All three.
How tiresome? How tiring is this show?
Listen, I am exhausted. I don't know if you can see the bags under my eyes, but I am just
no bags.
I also have a new 1-year-old at home, so that's an added extra for me.
Congratulations! So is the 1-year-old on the road with you?
I tried, and my mother and my husband said absolutely not. He will be here when you get back. Thank you.
So how long?
I should try to get home, even if I just can come in for one day. I try to get home and see my baby.
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask.
But it's exhausting out there. I mean, we're athletes. We tell everybody all the time, we're not just artists. When you're a triple threat, you're an athlete. You have to take care of every single part of your body, and you have to get the rest. You have to drink the water. You have to take your meds. You have to take care of your mental health, because the road can be a toll on you. So just everything at once is coming at you. And this show is a train. Once it takes off, you better be on it or you're going to get left.
Yeah. Well, when you also talk about being a new mom, does that bring a different perspective to being on the road for you? And why I say that is because you're sacrificing a lot to be out here for us. And you are making a decision, I'm going to give this to the audience. So what does that do to your performance?
Oh gosh, it's so funny that you asked that. Just last night, my leading lady, Miss Leandra Ellis Gaston, who does a beautiful job, she just started crying when she met my son because it reminded her of what a huge sacrifice that I'm making for him, and she just thought it was the most wonderful thing. And I God bless her. It's huge. I'm exhausted. I have insomnia on the road, actually, for the first time in my life. I can't sleep. The mommy guilt is killing me. So that in itself is difficult, is a challenge for me. But where it's become a blessing is that in playing this role, I have to be stern. I have to have this dream, and I have to be motivated to want to fight and do everything I can to lead this band and to get us the success that we need, especially during a time where not only women are being discriminated against, but Black people in general, and so on and so forth. So there's just a lot of challenges. So what being a new mom brought for me was another level of the maternal side to this character that I didn't know that I was going to have. And I'm not only the strict one, but I have love for these girls. I want us to make it. Mm-hmm. And they kind of become my daughters throughout, as I'm hard and I'm fussing at them, and but underneath it all, you definitely can feel that she's like a play mom to them. Mm-hmm. And that's how they look at her. So my son has given me that gift, and being able to add that extra layer to this character. And I think it just really helps Sweet Sue unfold in a very natural, beautiful way that I don't think I would have been able to achieve without my new baby boy.
Well, what I will say, though, that I hope you hear it the way I'm saying it, is that you can be very proud. And when your baby's older, you can say, I took this show, which had very important messages in today's day and age, and I traveled the country preaching of acceptance and love, and that maybe I wasn't here at home as much as I wanted to be, but I want you to know I helped create a better world for you.
Oh my God. Thank you. You're going to make me cry today. You already got me tearing up.
I'm trying. I'm going for it.
Oh, beautiful.
Got me tearing up. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I received that with all my heart. Thank you.
And for folks who don't know, there is some slight differences between the film you may be familiar with and what we see on stage. And you have modernized some of the issues that people are facing and questioning. What does it feel like for you taking this message across the country, especially as we were just mentioning in today's day and age?
Absolutely. You know what? It's liberating. It's absolutely liberating. And it shows not only the cast, and it surprises us every night, but the audience it's so shocking to see that they're already right there with us. Mm-hmm. The society and the news and will let you think that most of the world is behind and is not ready to move forward and not ready to be more understanding and not ready to be more diversified and more loving towards the different types of people and different groups of people and just it will make you think that we're stuck in this stereotypical world or this racist, sexist world. But honestly, this show hits it on the nail. The libretto, the writing that is so perfectly done. And the audience stays right there with us. And it's just so heartwarming to see the audience be open and be willing to accept this story and not shun it. It's definitely different from the movie, and I don't want to give away too much.
Now we're talking around it. But talking about seeing it, I will get to see you hopefully tonight when I get to do the talkback after the show.
Great.
Absolutely. I will be there.
DeQuina Moore is currently starring as Sweet Sue in the national tour of Some Like It Hot, the musical, currently playing at the Hobby Center through Sunday. To learn more, visit thehobbycenter.org. DeQuina, thank you so much for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, what an honor. Thank y'all for having me. I'm so glad I got to do this.
Thank you. And we did have quite a few last minute plans being sent in. Sean Radigan says last minute plans, free yoga class on the AstroTurf in Market Street in the Woodlands. You got to sign up on Eventbrite, and that's Sunday morning at 10. We want to thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston. It's the end of the week.
See you on Monday.
We'll see you on Monday. In the meantime, you can catch the best of Hello Houston Saturdays at 1 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. right here on News 88.7. Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altai, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support comes from San Jacinto College Foundation, presenting Couture for a Cause, an evening of celebrating fashion and philanthropy to benefit the promise at San Jack Scholarship, Friday, April 24th, 6 p.m.